Hi, I'm Justin Barrett. I'm president of Blueprint 1543. I'm a psychological scientist, former university professor, and this channel explores how to think better to live better as a sciencey person and a Christian. As a kid, I really loved the sciences, but I had a very Hollywood kind of impression about what it meant to do good scientific work. I thought it was more about, getting things to work, like creating a time machine out of a DeLorean, than using scientific methods to answer questions that we didn't yet know the answers to. What helped me learn better about what really sciences are about is my experience in science fairs. Yeah, sure, classroom science as well, but it was the science fairs that I participated in 7th and 8th grade that kind of really got me going down the path of understanding what the methods of the sciences really are and what it means to ask good questions that then can be explored empirically using the sciences. Maybe my most formative experience early on was in 9th grade. This wasn't the usual type of science fair, but it was a science experiment challenge that one of my teachers posed. Where all of his science classes, he had a challenge for us, and that was to propose a scientific experiment that could be conducted with hermit crabs, because he had a bunch of hermit crabs. And if you proposed the best experiment, you got to run the experiment on the hermit crabs and keep the hermit crabs. So that was quite the incentive for my 9th grade self. And fortunately, I had a 10th grade friend who told me the secret to win the competition. He said, basically, none of the 9th graders know that an experiment requires a control condition. So if you propose something with a control condition, you'll win. So I came up with something, and sure enough, I won the challenge, and I got the hermit crabs, and I got to run the experiment with the hermit crabs. So that was a pretty cool science competition that I was part into that played a formative role in my science education. I want to suggest in this video that science fairs are a wonderful way for those of us who are Christians and sciencey people to start normalizing the idea that Christians can do the sciences and do the sciences well. Many Christians think that doing the sciences are maybe a less than top tier career for Christians, maybe even a dangerous or suspect one. And many scientists, Christian or not, usually not, hold out prejudices against Christians as being capable of doing good science. And that's not just my word for it. Studies have shown that a lot of people in the scientific community carry around certain kinds of negative stereotypes about Christians, and will even sometimes act on those negative stereotypes in admitting students into degree programs in the sciences, advanced degree programs. But rather than trying to just argue out these points, that no, Christians can do sciences too, sometimes it's more strategic just to normalize the idea that, yeah, Christians do the sciences and do them well. And so occasionally we will trot out famous people from the sciences who are also Christians, like Galileo or Francis Bacon or other notable people. But maybe a more grassroots, a more basic way to do it is through science fairs and similar kinds of science competitions. There are lots of ways that individuals can take steps to contribute. And let me just give you a few to think about and see, do these resonate with you as something that you could do? Like volunteer to be a science fair coach. In my 7th and 8th grade science fairs, I didn't have a coach. My dad ended up being my coach, and he was not a scientist. For 7th grade and 8th grade, I was all alone. I didn't even have a teacher giving me any kind of support. Oftentimes that's the case. Sciencey kids, whether teachers just have too many of these kids who want to participate, or they just don't have the time. So could you volunteer to be a science fair coach? Help a junior high or high school student to conceptualize a strong project and execute it. That could be a really helpful thing to do. It can be really helpful for kids to see what real scientific work is like and what constitutes a true experiment. And not just this Dr. Frankenstein, mad scientist kind of stuff. You could also volunteer to be a judge in a science fair competition. Judging at science fairs is a fairly low investment way to support and encourage budding scientists and have a positive impact. This can be done at school, local level, regional level, national level, or even international level. For a couple of years, I had the really great privilege and fun to be a social and behavioral sciences judge for the International Science and Engineering Fair, which is put on every year by the Society for Science, one of the world's premier science promoting organizations. They have a network of about 400 different science fairs that they're connected with at state, regional, and at the national levels all over the world that qualify students to enter this International Science and Engineering Fair. It's a wonderful event. Consider being a judge at one of these events. They seem to always be looking for judges, and it's a really great time to just see what young people are doing. And by treating these young people well in that interview process, by being a good judge and a resource for them, talking through their studies, oh, they're looking up who you are. They've got their phones. They're figuring out. They're Googling you. It's yet another way to normalize the idea that, wow, that judge who was really smart and really helpful to me, also, I learned online, is a Christ follower. Well, that's interesting. So that's another way to normalize Christians doing the sciences. Youth ministers who are sciencey people, maybe attached to churches or ministry organizations such as Youth for Christ or Young Life, could meet and serve teams through these kinds of science fair support, through being a judge, through being a coach. I know that when I was a volunteer with Young Life, I did track and field coaching. It didn't occur to me then that I could have been a science fair coach. Churches and Christian colleges can help normalize Christians in the sciences by hosting science fairs for junior high and high school students. And some do. Christian colleges and universities can form science fair clubs and challenge rival universities to friendly science competitions. Have undergraduate level science fairs. Another thought, Christian schools could consider investing in a science fair club that aims to regularly produce some of the top science fair projects in the region, or even the nation. If a handful of Christian schools across the country regularly placed students in the International Science and Engineering Fair, that would communicate loud and clear that Christians can be excellent scientists and care about the sciences. And it doesn't take a lot of money or effort to do it. It just takes the right people to feel a conviction that this is something that they really want to do. And you don't have to be a scientist to help in any of these ways that I've just mentioned. Maybe you're a science enthusiast. Even if you don't feel qualified to be a science fair coach or judge, you could still help in hosting an event, finding coaches for local students, or approaching local philanthropists, businesses, and service organizations to sponsor science fair projects or teams. The key to normalizing Christian support for the sciences is not to evangelize students through science fairs, but to show Jesus' love and care for them through their scientific interests. Let your Christian faith be evident through how you conduct yourself, how you care for these students, as you work with them in promoting their science fair projects and growing their imagination for what their career could be like if they were to go into the sciences. So that's my little plug for science fairs. I've had a lot of fun in my couple of interactions working with the science fairs. I don't just mean when I was a kid, I mean as a scientist who then went on to do some judging for the International Science and Engineering Fair. If you want to know more about the International Science and Engineering Fair in particular, there is a cool little documentary. It's a beautiful little film called Science Fair that I'm sure you can find online somewhere. Maybe we can put a link in the comments or something to that. But thanks for joining me in considering science fairs in this episode. I'm Justin Barrett. As always, like, subscribe, share these videos with people you think would find them interesting, and leave us comments and suggestions for other material that you'd like to see us develop. Thanks, and keep running those great experiments.